Well, welcome to this edition of the Heart of the Black Madonna channel. We're fully into the first week of January, this new year of 2023. And if you're like most people, this new year is much anticipated as an opportunity to start fresh after such a difficult year. For me personally, it was quite a doozy in many respects, but I must say in all gratitude that producing for this channel was a healing, grounding, and also expanding experience in the previous year. Thanks to my loyal and longtime Patreon supporters and my new position with the International Fellowship of St. John in Bulgaria, these have given me the materials, equipment, as well as the consistency and time to produce this labor of love. As we bring in the new year, we can see that after the after effects of the pandemic have sparked great transformation in human consciousness and evolution. Part of my research in terms of my writing and production requires me to be a bit of an amateur historian. It is striking to me that the Black Madonnas as art forms became immensely popular in certain points of history, namely in the lead up to major cultural transitions. I see this cycle repeating itself currently, that the Black Madonna has become quite present in the popular imagination in the decades leading up to the current crisis that we are experiencing on all levels of human culture and existence. As my long-term listeners have come to know, probably by heart at this point, my guiding star to my approach of the Black Madonna has been the principle set forth by Rudolf Steiner, philosopher and founder of anthroposophy. In a lecture cycle entitled The Influence of Spiritual Beings on Humanity, he says, "Art is the creation of organs through which the gods are able to speak to humanity." For me, my journey has been to comprehend what the gods are saying to humanity through these images. This context has led me on so many delightful and profound threads, which are and will be reflected in numerous books, some already published and others in the pipeline, so to speak. My recent wanderings have led me to a fascinating dive into the mystical origins of the Black Madonna as an art form. In many of the images, there is no denying the influence of African artists on the creations. It has always intrigued me as to how these images made their way to the European continent, particularly in the early Christian centuries. It has also intrigued me as to why they were brought and what the spiritual messages behind transporting them across oceans and vast territories of land. My ignorance of history became evident the further I delved into the mists of time, seeing how the ancients worshiped deities, how Christianity developed in the first 1,000 years, where Christianity developed in that pivotal millennia, what remained and what was lost to our collective memories. For me, one of the streams of the Black Madonna is that she is a beautiful legacy of the first 1,000 years of the formation of the Christ impulse on earth, not only pointing to the evolution of culture, but to the deep and hidden history of our collective origins as spiritually inclined humans. The book that will encompass this history of what I comprehend as messages from the gods through these enigmatic and mysterious images that are once again capturing our attention, this book is titled The Black Madonna, Mysterious Wisdom from the South. This is also the basis for the upcoming trip to Namibia with Sarnia Guiton of Sophia Services in September of 2023. For the next few weeks until the deadline for registration in mid-February, I will be exploring some of the themes of the book, as well as the talks which will be presented on the trip. The title of the trip essentially says it all: In Search of Sacred Origins in Africa, the Golden Heart of the World. I want to share with you a beautiful quote from Lawrence van der Post, a South African writer and journalist. Quote, "This earth of Africa is old, old in all senses and dimensions of the word, old in the conscious measure of man, older in the light of myth and symbol. So old indeed is this Africa that comparisons are not merely odious but pointless, and yet they must be made to bring the matter nearer to comprehension, if only because no other single factor has contributed as much to the unique character of Africa as this incredible oldness of African earth." The trip, In Search of Sacred Origins in Africa, the Golden Heart of the World, will combine a unique experience of Southwestern Africa, its geography, wildlife, and an exploration into the mystical and sacred origins from an anthroposophical perspective. I'm so pleased to be joined during this episode by In Search of Sacred Origins trip planner and leader, Sarnia Guiton, who will give us a taste of what we can expect on this journey. Welcome, Sarnia.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Now, our first destination on this amazing trip is a biodynamic farm in Namibia, where Sarnia has had the pleasure of staying recently. Sarnia, can you tell us a little bit about Krumhoek?
I visited Krumhoek and was impressed with experiencing a biodynamic farm in Namibia. Accommodation is in interesting bungalows. We will have all meals at the farm and the food is excellent. The location is beautiful and there are interesting local residents on the farm, including a Christian community priest with a chapel where those who wish can participate in the consecration of man.
I had the distinct pleasure of joining one of Sarnia's trips several years ago. It was called In Search of Sacred Architecture, where we visited many sites in England and Europe. One thing Sarnia dedicates her trips to is an immersion in local culture and to not rush through at lightning speed, which I can't tell you how much I love that. Now, Sarnia, can you tell us how the rhythm of the day will be when we are at Krumhoek?
Yes, of course. We have a proposed daily schedule with breakfast at 8:30 for an hour, followed by a talk by Stephanie at 9:30, which is also followed by a coffee break. Then we will have conversation and lunch, and there'll be some free time after lunch to process what we've been hearing. At 3:00, there'll be tea, followed by some artistic activity, potentially rhythmy, pastel drawing, singing, or even bread making, which can also be an artistic activity.
Definitely.
At 6:30, we'll have dinner, and after dinner, a short talk and some conversation.
Oh, I just can't wait to go. Now, my part is to give a series of talks, and these are the ones that we will be exploring each day of the trip. And the first one is on cosmic origins. And in this talk, we will explore the cosmic origins of the Earth, and we'll be drawing upon Rudolf Steiner's indications in his book, Cosmic Memory and Lecture Cycles. The next talk is Ancient Cultures of Southern Africa. And in this talk, we will focus on traditional and recent archaeological discoveries in Southern Africa, illustrating that there were highly civilized communities that existed in this region over 100,000 years ago. The next talk will be on the Golden Connection. Southern Africa has been known in modern history as literally a gold mine, but the golden connection reaches back to ancient India and before, in addition to the civilizations and trade surrounding gold, there are deeper spiritual significances as well as challenges with the association of this precious metal. The next talk is Etheric Geography of Southern Africa. For this talk, we will focus on the unique etheric geography of the region and how it has shaped both the history and the people of Southern Africa, as well as the European explorers. And finally, we will discuss Mark the Evangelist, the Lion and the Heart of the World. The theme for this talk will be the ancient Christian connection in the African continent through the evangelist Mark. His symbol, as well as that of the gospel, is the lion, which suggests why the African continent is considered the heart of the world. After our stay at Krumhoek, we drive to the capital Windhoek and stay at the Chameleon Guest House, where participants will have a rest day to explore this interesting city and enjoy lunch and supper at their own pace and choice from the many options available at local restaurants and cafes. What I personally think is so amazing about this trip is that we will explore the natural beauty and wildlife of Namibia in the Etosha Park and what is called the Skeleton Coast. Sarnia, can you tell us where participants will go for the next few days of the trip?
Yes, we'll be driving north to Etosha National Park, stopping to watch the wildlife as we go. The animals are habituated to vehicles and basically ignore us so long as we are quiet and don't startle them. We do not get out of the vehicle because we are then separate and become prey or predators.
Well, after that amazing experience, we're going to drive to the Etosha Pan, which is a 4,500 square kilometers saline desert. And after this, we're going to the Ugab River. And can you tell us about these lovely women?
Yes, these lovely ladies sell their local tribal handicrafts. This is their main source of income.
And then we'll go to the Namib Desert and the Skeleton Coast.
The Skeleton Coast has been named historically for disturbing reasons. Over the many centuries, many ships have capsized here, and their skeletons can still be seen. Further, any survivors from the shipwrecks had little chance of surviving the miles of sand dunes and desert.
Well, luckily, we'll have a wonderful driver to take us.
We will. We'll be safe.
Yes. Now, the next place we'll be going is Swakopmund. I think I said that properly. Did you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Swakopmund is a seaside town, very popular among Namibians. Unlike our other accommodations, which will primarily be in full ensuite rooms in tents, we will check in at a hotel, Hotel à la Mer, Hotel at the Sea.
Oh, what a beautiful view. And then we're going to go to the
Sossusvlei.
There we go. Yeah. Sarnia has better pronunciation than I do.
That's a particularly peaceful site in the desert.
And these are, what are these animals?
These are oryx.
Ah, wow. And then after that, we'll be going to the Solitaire Cheetah Sanctuary.
Yes, it's an incredible experience to see these elusive animals up close.
Wow, I can't wait. And you were saying we need to make sure that we kept our the top of our vehicle closed because these could crawl in and join us.
Well, these would not because they're contained, but when you're out on a game drive, it is certainly not unknown for lions, lionesses particularly, and leopards and cheetahs to decide that we are interesting and to climb into the vehicle and sit on our laps for a while until they're bored and decide they'll leave.
Decide to go on. Well, I can't guarantee participants that that
No,
will happen.
I'm not sure we want it to happen.
No. So please click on the link in the program notes if you would like to participate in this epic journey of the soul in search of sacred origins in Africa, the golden heart of the world. I, for one, am so looking forward to visiting these incredible places that are, according to geologists and archaeologists, the cradle of the earth. At the time of posting this video, there are only a few spaces left, so make sure to get your registration in as soon as possible. Sarnia, is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
Yes, I think it would be helpful for you to know that Namibia was only granted independence from South Africa in 1990 at the end of apartheid. It is a very young country. From 1884, Namibia was a German colony, German Southwest Africa. After the First World War, the League of Nations gave South Africa a mandate to administer the territory. The German influence is still very apparent. Every African country is different. We truly welcome you on this adventure. Flying to Windhoek, Namibia is straightforward through a European hub, Frankfurt being the best option.
Well, I am, for one, cannot wait. So this is Stephanie Georgieff and Sarnia Guiton saying thank you so much for sharing your valuable time with us. We hope to see you in September in Namibia as we go in search of sacred origins.